Hi everyone. Today, I'm here to tell you about how applications, apps, the ones you have on your phone, can one day feed Nigeria. We've looked to the internet for the solutions to a lot of our problems. We've gone for friendship, to advertise, to find information, do research. Some people even look for roommates on the internet. But can we one day actually solve the problem of hunger and poverty from the internet or from the apps we have on our phones? Well, first of all, why hunger? To underscore how important hunger is, the world came together. By the world, I mean the UN and the 189 member countries in the year 2000. They declared that they wanted to solve some of the world's most dire problems. Among these problems, we have gender equality, environmental degradation. They want to fight AIDS, malaria, and other diseases. However, goal one was hunger and poverty. Now, we had 15 years, 2000 to 2015, to solve the problem of poverty and hunger. How do we know if we have succeeded in this? Well, we are to halve the number of children under 5 that die of hunger every day. We're also supposed to reduce by half the number of people that have just 270 naira a day to spend. I'm sure some of you spent more than 270 naira coming here alone, not to talk about recharge cards or food. Now, some people have that as their total daily income. And it even gets worse because some people are under that average. So it's 2015. How have we done? Well, for hunger, we had 34% of children under the age of 5 dying of hunger in 1999. Now we have 27%. We have a couple of percent reduction. But for poverty, we had 68 million people in 2000 in Nigeria living under $1.25 a day. And right now, we have 110 million people living under $1.25 a day. So, is it that we've done nothing, or the government has done nothing about hunger and poverty all this while, 15 years? No. There have been programs, NAPEP, National Poverty Eradication Program. There has been the WAP, War Against Poverty. They've opened farms, they've given seeds to farmers, they've given loans to farmers, they've trained people on agriculture, they've done agricultural reforms, they've tried to rebase the economy so that we have more agriculture, and yet we still have this problem. Why exactly are we going through this phenomenon in Nigeria? Well, 2 things are wrong with our agriculture. Number 1, scale. And number 2, wastage. For scale, you see, agricultural enterprises are not like some other enterprises where when you scale up, you add profits. In agriculture, when you scale up, profits become exponential. Produce becomes exponential. Now, for countries like Brazil, that are doing really well in agriculture, they have really, really large farms. And these can produce enough for them and for them to export. But what do we have in Nigeria? We have 14 million peasant farmers in small farms trying to make ends meet. And what is more, out of what they produce, it is estimated that 40% is lost to wastage, lack of communication, lack of transportation, and lack of facilities to store them or process them. So what do they do to make up their ends meet or make up for the losses of this 40%? Well, if I had a ton of tomatoes that I was going to sell and I lost 40% and I was going to sell it for, say, 200,000 naira, and I've lost 40%, I wouldn't sell my 60% left for less than 200,000 naira. I will still sell the entire 60% for 200,000 naira. Now you know why tomatoes are very expensive. In fact, one ball is like 25 naira. It's really crazy. If you want to do an omelette right now, you have to spend at least 250. Well, how can we solve this problem? Recently, I went for a training, one of the government trainings, the War Against Poverty program for coppers. And there I met over 400 enthusiastic people who wanted to be agro entrepreneurs. Among them, people from different fields, from agric, from finance, economics, political science, engineering, and some of them came from the field of computers, computer science, computer engineering, programming, and the rest of them. And I met these people, and we began to trade ideas, and we began to talk about how we could use the training we just got. And then it came to me that you could actually create a network of farmers. After about 2 weeks, when we left the program, a friend of mine called me and said, "Dude, I know you went for the WAP program. Did you meet anybody who does cocoa export? There's a Chinese guy. He wants to buy 250 tons of cocoa, and I can't seem to get anyone who has that amount because cocoa is off-season." And I began making calls. I called my instructors, I called friends, I called people I knew were into agriculture. I spent a lot of money on calls that very day. And guess what? I couldn't get a single person that knew a single person who had that amount of cocoa. But I knew for sure that there was 250 tons of cocoa in Nigeria at that point in time. So what can we do about this situation? Because some people have this produce and they cannot sell it. Some people have the produce, they cannot transport it. Some people have the produce and a little money to transport it, but they cannot pay to go long distances to where these things are actually needed. So the odds are against the farmers right now. Enter the app developers. Today, we have Facebook, we have Twitter. We share information in seconds from just a click or two. We in Africa need to develop a network that could create this scale-up effect. Now, instead of waiting for the government to maybe buy all this produce, what if the farmers had a way to communicate with each other on the go? What if the farmers they knew their buyers, they knew where they could go to sell their products, they knew what to do to get the best products at every point in time, they had the latest information on the prices and everything? Well, some group of developers in Africa came up with something called Farmerline, farmerline.org. Now, it's a set of applications that help farmers and consumers link up with each other to get messages or information relayed. Now, on Farmerline, you can register your farm online, and you can have even your normal feature phones, the really simple, basic ones. You get this information via text message. Now, I like this one called iCal. What it does, basically, is it teaches the farmers about cows and their gestation periods. Now, for those farmers that work with cows and milking them, you know that sometimes you don't even know when exactly the cow is going to begin gestating or lactating, producing milk. Now, what it does is that it records all the information you put in, and then it gives you the accurate time. It does all that calculation for you. Finally, at Avion, a small startup that I'm running, I decided to build something for Nigeria, and it's called Farmeasy. It's an application targeted at this young, growing number of entrepreneurs that are looking at farming or the agro business as a way to make a living. Yes, unemployment is really hitting hard. Some people are opening ponds, poultry farms. I know many of my colleagues that graduated from the university, they haven't gotten jobs in Shell or the other oil-based sectors. In fact, only 5% of Nigerians directly benefit from the oil business. And it will surprise you to know that 45% of our GDP actually comes from the agro sector. Now, what does Farmeasy do? Basically, it teaches you, it gives you on the farm tips and information. For example, if you register your farm as a poultry farm, on the first day, it tells you you have to do something called IO, and that's inoculation. It's a vaccine for the chickens. First day, you get the tip on your app or via text message. The next day, it tells you you have to do the second vaccination. Then it tells you the amount of feed to give them. It tells you if you have 250 chickens, this is the amount of space you need. It tells you, it gives you tips every day on how to run your farm. It also tells you where you can sell your chickens. It tells you the best feed to buy. It tells you basically everything. It's like having your own personal expert right there with you on the farm, 24/7. A lot of people go into farming and they make a lot of losses. Sometimes because of inexperience, sometimes because of mishaps. Now, I believe with Farmeasy, there will be a lot less of this kind of losses. Some people even go into farming with loans and then find out that it wasn't all that they thought it could be. But if they had this vital information as at the time when they need it, why should they have losses? Now, this network of farmers around Nigeria, connected through applications, could create a kind of scale-up effect that will make our industry not use even more resources, but produce much, much more profit and actually reduce the amount of hunger and poverty that we are experiencing in the country. Now, it's 2015, and the Millenium Development Goals are ending. But they are being replaced with something else, something called the Sustainable Development Goals. And they are going to run for another 15 years. For MDGs, the goal was to halve the problems of the world. And for many countries, they have used it as an opportunity to progress, both economically and socially. The goal for 2030 is to get to what we call the zero zone. Zero poverty, zero discrimination, zero hunger. Now, I believe that apps are one way to go if we are to achieve this in Nigeria. Thank you.